So thank you everyone for joining us today. I want to first thank Willie for being here and be able to present with us and share his knowledge with us. For those of you that don't know who Willie is the founder and CEO of the AVEKA Group, which is comprised of 5 different locations in Minnesota and Iowa. The AVEKA Group was founded in 1994 as a spinoff from 3M. Prior to starting at AVEKA, Willie worked at 3M as a technical manager for the particle processing in 3M's corporate research facility. Willie received his PhD from the University of Florida in organometallic synthesis, and Willie is also currently the president of IFPRI, which is an International Fine Particles Research Institute, and hopefully he'll mention a little bit about that today. It's an exciting consortium. With that, Willie, I will let you take off with our presentation today. Thank you again.
All right, thank you, Nicole, and thank everybody for being here today. So I have to ask you, when I share my screen, are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
And you're now seeing the proper format, right?
That is correct.
Perfect. Well, thank you everybody for being here today. Today I'm going to talk about toll manufacturing at AVEKA and the changes that are occurring in the world of contract manufacturing and how this affects all of us. So I'm going to give you an overview about AVEKA to start with. We are a particle technology company focused on contract manufacturing, and as Nicole said, I used to work at 3M. In 1994, I spun this company off from 3M. We started out with 3 people and 8,000 square feet, and 26 years later, we're 5 separate companies, 5 separate sites, with over 400,000 square feet of warehouse, manufacturing, laboratories, and offices, and located in Minnesota and Iowa. Today, I'm going to talk about the food part of our business. Altogether, we have about 290 employees, and you can see at the bottom of the slide the different sorts of certifications that we have, whether it's FDA or kosher. I believe there's halal, but it's not up here, organic, all the right sorts of things to be able to process food. The vision that AVEKA has is that we would like to build on the legacy, our legacy of leadership and innovation to come up with good manufacturing solutions for particle technology. And our mission then is to supply those good manufacturing solutions with quality, excellent customer service for the benefit of our customers, our employees, and our communities. Now, only our customers, you can tell us whether we've actually met those goals or not, but hopefully we are. The AVEKA Advantage, I mean, why would anybody come to us versus anybody else? And there's kind of a history to this slide as we look at it. When I started the company, I thought that people might come and talk to us because we had just left 3M, and 3M is known as an innovative company, and people might think that we're innovative, and we still like to think that we are innovative, but that was a draw. The other thing that we had is when I left 3M, we had a lot of different types of equipment. So instead of just being a spray drying company or a prilling company or a microencapsulation company, we had all of these capabilities, and the idea was, could we offer that? And lo and behold, there were people that were interested enough to come in and see us and talk to us with those advantages. But one of the things that we found out early on is that you can be really smart and you can have lots of possibilities, but if you don't offer good customer service, you don't have a good quality system, and you're not committed to health, safety, and environmental, you're really not a company. And so as we grew as a company, we added those customer service, quality, and HS&E types of commitments. One day, one of our customers asked us, if they could speak to me, could we go out and have a beer that night? And I said, absolutely, let's go out and have a beer. And when we got out to the bar, he says, Willie, I just want to tell you what our company thinks of your company. And I thought, oh my goodness, is he going to tell me that we're doing something wrong? He says, we just want to tell you that we think of you as the gold standard for the people that we do contract manufacturing with. Well, that's a really nice thing to say. And I said, well, is that because we're innovative? And this was a very large company. And he says, no, we think that we're smarter than you. And then he said, is it, as I said, because we have good customer service? And he says, no, we expect that from our tollers. And I said, well, if it's not those two, what is it that, why do you think that, why are we your gold standard? And he said, we like you because you're one of the most flexible companies that we work with. And that really rocked me back because we are flexible. I mean, that's one of the hallmarks of our company is that when somebody comes, we're going to run a test run or we're going to actually talk to them about a new project. We're going to think outside the box and come up with some good flexible approaches to this. Well, as a company for years and years and years, we've described ourselves with those 6 boxes. But recently, and because of where we're at right now, we've added another one, and that's really partnership development. And I'm going to talk about that a little later on, but I just wanted to leave you with that there's something new that's happening, or maybe it's always been there, but it's maybe new for AVEKA about what we do and how we provide advantage to other people. So let me just give you an overview of the company itself. These are the 5 different companies, the 5 different sites in the AVEKA group. The top site is the corporate headquarters where Nicole and I are located. The bottom site is a company, a site that we do jet milling. The top site and the bottom site are really not focused on food. And so I'm not going to talk about those sites. I'm going to talk about the 3 in the middle, AVEKA Manufacturing, Cresco Food Technologies, and AVEKA Nutra Processing. So let me just get to the next slide. These 3 sites are all in Iowa, and these are the sites that we do all of the food processing, toll manufacturing. And so AVEKA Manufacturing is a place that we purchased in 1996. It started out as 63,000 square feet. We've more than doubled the size up to 160,000 square feet. We do a lot of spray drying, fluid bed drying, hammer milling, and dry blending and repackaging processes. And you can see some of the pictures on the slide here. The one in the bottom center is the big box dryer that we have. And up in the upper right-hand corner are some of the fluid beds that we do drying processes with. Down in the lower right-hand corner, this is because we always want to show a picture of the building. This is our new warehouse, our 40,000 square foot warehouse that we just added on. So as as our business has expanded, we keep adding more and more space to our operations. A lot of different food and animal feed production done in this facility. Cresco Food Technologies was a dairy that we also purchased in Northeast Iowa in 2001. It started out as a 50,000 square foot facility, and you can see we've expanded it up to 70,000 square feet. This is 100% food processing with spray drying, prilling, drum drying, concentration wet blending. And you can just see some of the equipment here. The tower that you see here in the upper right, that's our prilling tower. It looks like a spray dryer, but it actually is a prilling tower. And down in the lower corner here, this is just one of the evaporators that we have at this facility. AVEKA Nutra Processing is our newest company that we've added to the AVEKA group and this is a food facility in Waukon, Iowa, also in Northeast Iowa. This place is a 55,000 square foot facility. You can see in the lower left-hand corner here, the new dryer that we're adding to our facility. This will give us 3 spray dryers in this facility. We have one dryer that produces about 1,000 pounds of water evaporation an hour. This one that we're putting up here will be about 2,000 pounds of water evaporation. And the largest one that we have will do about 5,000 pounds of water evaporation. Some relatively good-sized dryers. We also have high pressure reactors, and in the center you can see some of our membrane filtration on the top center or left side, whatever you want to call it, center. We have our membrane filtration systems. and then some other pictures of either our tank farms to do liquid processing or the bottoms of our big spray dryer. Now, you know, these are the facilities that we have to do spray drying. But we also do spray drying and food processing, but we also do quite a number of different unit operations processing. So we do a lot of roll drying, we do grinding and milling, we do fluidized bed drying, we coat particles, we do micro nanofiltration, we do extractions. You know, the idea is for AVEKA as a contract manufacturer, we really want to have the right process to fit the needs of the customer that comes to have it. So rather than have just one tool in our toolbox, we have many tools in our toolbox. Now, one of the things I want to talk to today is about how is food outsourcing world changing? And, you know, this is really an interesting story. At least it is to me, maybe not to you, but it is very interesting to me. 10 or 15 years ago, the critical factors in being a successful outsourcing resource for our customers, it was mostly about price and quality. I mean, it really, you know, you have to have absolutely have to have the right price. And, you know, pennies difference can make a big difference whether you're actually going to get the business or not. And if you don't have quality, you never have a food business. And I think we all know that. The other thing was what I call flexibility. And 10 or 15 years ago, flexibility was defined as having excess capacity when somebody called up with an emergency, I need to dry a tank truck of XYZ material. You could say, you know, I can fit you in tomorrow or 3 days from now or a week from now. The world has changed in the last 10 or 15 years. And today, even though price is still at the top, if you can't reach a good price margin, and if you don't have good quality, you don't have a business. But now it's not so much about excess capacity. Is there any capacity? The world has definitely changed in this past 10 years, is that I don't know of very many food grade dryers or other processing pieces of equipment that have excess capacity on them. So nowadays, the issue is, do you have, as a toll producer, do we have capacity available, any capacity available? And as a customer looking for capacity, where do I turn because I don't see any capacity available? The second thing that's changed is 10 or 15 years ago, we were trying to outsource to China or Mexico or wherever as much as we possibly could in the US from a manufacturing standpoint. That's changed. And you're seeing this started maybe 3 years ago, but really gaining a lot of momentum in amongst the COVID pandemic about onshoring manufacturing back to the US. Wow, what a big change. And so people are worried about supply chains and how far away they are, and maybe the quality of some of these other countries, that can we control it better here in the United States? And the food industry has really been on a real interest to onshore as much manufacturing as possible here in the United States. A big difference. Another thing that has changed, and this is kind of the changing economic environment, is that the big companies have been really reducing their engineering support staff, and they've been reducing their technical staff. Really, and I see this all over, not just the United States, but all over the world, but in the United States also. And what happens is bigger companies have less technical resources to develop new products, and they have less technical resources to deal with problems in that. And I see them reaching out to companies like ours to help them with process development or process improvements. And finally, the last thing that I see as a very big change is this idea of partnership development. And I mentioned that earlier on as one of the AVEKA advantages. I'm going to give you an example of a partnership, but basically what's happened with this reduced capacity, with this onshoring going on, with the technical abilities shrinking in larger companies, the larger companies are finding it absolutely necessary to develop partnerships with contract manufacturers because they need to use the resources that are available, because even though they might have fewer resources or fewer technical abilities to handle it, the fact of the matter is they are still driven to have new products and new capacity and expanded capacity. So partnership, and I'll describe a partnership just a little bit on in an example that I have. From a innovation and technical reach out, this is one of the things that, we're really talking about new process development or new product development. And, AVEKA, we've positioned ourselves, we believe, in a unique position by really having a long history of innovation, going back to our roots at 3M that I mentioned earlier. But currently, we have over 40 patents that we own or license in our technology portfolio. So, we can draw on some very interesting technologies. We have numerous development projects, and we love doing development projects. That's one of the functions that we have with a very strong research group at our corporate headquarters here, both on food processing and non-food processing, but we do a lot of food processing developing projects. And on a monthly basis, just to kind of keep us busy and our brains thinking, we might do 5 to 10 brainstorming sessions per month with different customers. And these can range anywhere from how do you do a small project to how do you do a really complicated project. And we'll take these on and see if there's a way that we can help. We've also tried to look at technical outreach. It's one thing to think that you're really good, but it's another thing to compare yourself to the rest of the world. And so, as an example, I am the president and a member of the International Fine Particles Research Institute. And I hope that your companies would actually take a look at this and think about becoming a member of this. This is a group of about 40 companies, international companies, that have realized that particle technology is something very poorly understood, even in companies that have done it for years and years and years. And so they've reached out to form a consortium where people get together to actually talk about the issues and strategic ways of addressing some of these issues in a non-proprietary fashion. So we have companies like Nestle, excuse me, are in this group. Pfizer is a member of this. Corning is a member of this. Unilever is a member. And so these different companies can get together, have wonderful discussions about the challenges of particle technology, and it gives me and many others confidence in trying to come up with new and innovative solutions. As a technical outreach, we also do, as a company, we probably do 30 to 40 technical presentations. Here's one that we're doing right now. We do webinars, and I know some of you have perhaps seen this webinar. We did about a month ago, Mastering the Processing Methods of Engineered Particles. It was a fun talk to give. It talked about how do you think about coming up with a new particle, and if you get a chance, you might go to our website and you can click on that webinar and see that there. We also do a lot of short course sponsorships and contribute to these in the areas of microencapsulation and particle technology. So, trying to really provide a site for people to come to look for solutions. And, I hope that, this is one of the things that you can reach out to us, and we'd love to help you with that. In order to provide some of these solutions and understand what we're doing, you actually have to have the equipment to measure things. And so I put this up here as just some of the tools that we're using to try to find out, did we make it the right way? Have we made the right size particle? Do we have the right shape of a particle? Do we understand the physical characteristics, with respect to scanning calorimetry, or do we understand the flow characteristics, whether it's a liquid rheological flow or a powder flow? All of these things, these are standard pieces of equipment, but we've gathered them all into an area, and we use them religiously on trying to understand and provide good service to our customers in food and other processing. So, I've told you a lot about who we are, why we're doing this, what are the changes, but let me give you just a couple examples of something that we've done. And this one here, I want to give you a way that we approached a problem uniquely. So in the field of food right now, there's a big push to come up with new sources of vegetable-based protein, and peas or chickpeas or lentils or soybeans, all are good sources of protein. But the challenge with all of these materials is that they're typically somewhere between 20 and 40% protein, and you really want to sell a protein that's much higher concentration of protein. And you get it up to 60%, 80%, 90%. And so the way that people do this is they'll take a pea flour as an example. They will put it in water and they will try to dissolve the protein away from the starch. They use the centrifuge to separate the starch and the liquefied protein, and then they will dry the starch particles, and you have a starch that you can use. And then they'll also dry the protein. Spray drying typically is what's used to dry the protein. The challenge with this is I just described a fairly simple process, but when you actually get into the meat of the matter of this thing, separating a starch and a protein uses a lot of water, and there's a lot of steps in here, and it can get more and more complicated as time goes on. So one of the things that we thought about is, wouldn't it be nice if we could just separate this from the dry form? And so if we look here, this is on this slide, we have the particle size distribution of flour, we have the particle size distribution of the starch, and we have a particle size distribution of the protein that we were able to separate. And there's enough size difference that we thought that we could actually do a separation. So on this next slide, what we did is we did a jet milling and air separation of these materials. So if we look at the scanning electron micrograph at the bottom of this slide, you can see the oval-shaped, football-shaped starch particles, and all the debris that you see in here is not debris, that's the protein that you actually want. So what we did is we jet milled this, and starch is an interesting thing to jet mill. It just bounces around, it laughs at the jet mill, it doesn't break up, but we can strip some of the protein off the starch granules, and you can see a picture up here at the top of after we jet milled and then air separated it, we got a much higher concentration of starch. And if you look at the other picture, a much higher concentration of protein. So we've actually affected a dry separation of this, which is a substantially cheaper process to do than just doing the wet processing. Now, what you'll also notice if you look at these pictures closely is that there still is protein mixed in with the starch, and there's still starch mixed in with the protein. So it wasn't a perfect separation, but that's something that we're continuing to work on, is ways to really get this process down to the point where it's all a dry separation and you can get rid of the water. So that's just one example. I mean, we have many, many examples of this, but I just wanted to give you just a flavor of what we do with thinking outside the box and coming up with new processes. Having said that, we are really active in doing the wet separation that I told you uses a lot of water. But once again, I just want to give you that how we look at the world is that if there's a better way to do it, let's figure out how to use that. So my last example is this idea of partnering, and this is a really interesting situation right now. Going back to the big companies that might not have all of the resources to put on something, but they need something done fast. So many years ago, we had a customer come to us and ask us if we could dry live yeast. And we handle a lot of yeast drying, but usually this is deactivated yeast. It's used as a flavorant, not as a growing organism. And we said, boy, I don't know, we know how to dry stuff, but we've never handled dry yeast. But they implored on us to please give this a try. And so we did. We tried it. And lo and behold, working together with our customer, and it really was an interesting partnership, we came up with a really nice process. And then they said, could you scale this up for us? And here's where the partnership really became interesting. The answer was yes, we could scale it up. We figured out how to do it. And basically what we had was we had a cement slab that you see these people standing on that was outside a building. And we put up a 2-story building, added all the equipment that you see in this picture and the next picture that I'm going to show you. And we did it in 18 months. So let's just think about this. We had a cement slab, we built a building, we actually added some storage tanks for the liquid yeast that's coming in. We added in extruders, we added in filter presses, and we finally built, designed, and installed fluid beds to dry the product. And what we ended up with is a live yeast granule. Looks very similar to the yeast that you use at home. In this particular case, this was a yeast used in an industrial application. But the point was here is the fact that we could work with a customer. They supplied some of the cash to actually do this, hence the partnership part of this. We supplied the space and the rapid response engineering and building to get this whole facility built out from a cement slab to a full-blown building that was with equipment installed, and it was IQ, OQ, PQ'd in that 18 weeks, and we're able to run. That ability to form a partnership, move very, very fast and come up with a unique process and do it rapidly is what we think is a real opportunity in this coming world. So the ability to help somebody come up with a new process, that technical improvement that I think is going to be needed, that outreach that's going to happen, and the ability to move fast in a partnership way is kind of the direction that we see food processing contract manufacturing going. So I'd just like to end up with a, kind of a summary. We really see ourselves offering innovative manufacturing solutions. We really come at this from a unique perspective. We're looking at many, many different markets, many, many different types of equipment, unit ops that we have. And we're always applying new and interesting ideas in novel particle technology. Thank you for listening to my talk. I hope it was worthwhile. If you'd like to contact me, please do at either these email address or phone number, or stick around and I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. Thank you.
Thank you, Willie. We appreciate it, and the information you shared was very beneficial to learn about all of AVEKA's food processing capabilities. So we'll thank you there, and then we can start the question and answer session now.
Willie, you mentioned that you have milling and grinding capabilities. Could you just go a little bit deeper into what those are, what types of mills and grinders you have?
Sure, that's a great question. So we do a lot of just plain hammer milling. We also do hammer milling enhanced with cryogenic cooling, so we can do cryo grinding. We have ball mills for doing grinding, and they're not typically used in food processing, but there are a number of applications where ball mills can be very useful in food processing. And we also have jet mills, and jet mills are typically used to grind up things to the 1 to 5 micron range.
Okay, yeah, you touched on the subject that I wanted to discuss was cryo grinding. We have a possibility for or a need for cryo grinding of seeds. Does that sound like something that you guys could take care of?
What was the word? I didn't hear the word.
Cryo grinding of seeds. Of seeds.
Yeah, we've actually done that. There's some really there's reasons to be careful when you're grinding some seeds, because if they have a lot of oil in them, that you'll end up with a peanut butter like consistency. So people, when they grind seeds, you're always worried about, how much oil is it? Are you going to make that peanut butter type of structure?
Right.
Many times people don't do cryo grinding of seeds. I mean, we definitely could do it. Many times you use a shredder to cut seeds, a cutter to cut seeds.
Okay.
It just depends on what you're looking for, but happy to talk to you about that for sure.
Yeah, when you do cryogrinding, are you using liquid nitrogen or CO2?
Typically, we use liquid nitrogen.
Okay.
We've used CO2, but you know we have more liquid nitrogen available. It just makes more sense for us.
Yeah, we're trying to preserve the microstructure of the seed, especially the oil-bearing seeds, the oil bodies within the seeds. We're trying to maintain their structure.
So
That's
I mean,
why
are you trying to save that? I mean, that the oil bearing part. I mean, you're trying to save the organelle structure. Is that what you're trying to save?
correct. We don't want the oil loose. We want the oil encapsulated in the oil body.
Wow, that's a really interesting problem. I'd love to talk to you about that one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really interesting because I mean, you know, the organelles. I mean, if I'm thinking of this right, these organelles are phospholipid stabilized structures
Correct.
that are then stabilized with some oleosins.
Proteins, right?
Yeah, those proteins. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's very, very interesting. Robert, I'd love to talk to you about that.
Yeah. I
That's
can't say much more than that at this point, but I'll talk to you about it in the future.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, but that's an interesting problem, and I think cryogrinding could help, but I can also imagine we just have to really think about this. I mean, those organelles are really an interesting structure, and it's a very interesting problem.
We've done it on a lab scale, but we don't have the production scale equipment to do it. So I've already talked to Marilee and Todd, I believe, about possibility of doing some trials.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, I'd love to talk to you about it also. That's an area that I have some real interest in those organelles for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I don't see any new questions in the chat box right now. But if anyone else has questions, feel free to ask.
And if not, please feel free to contact me, call me up, email me. Love to talk to you, and thank you very much for listening to the talk.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Willie, again.
All right, take care.
Bye.